Hello everyone. As part of data flow analysis, let us see some more concepts related to PIG tool. We will be talking about how does PIG deals with null values, or how does it take care of errors in the data or missing values in the data. I will just show you this with an example. SQL database, whenever we are working with SQL database, it enforces strict constraints on the data. Say for example, into an integer, if you are trying to store any character information, varchar, it will not allow you, it throws an error, data type mismatch, all such errors will be thrown to us. Now what happens if you are trying to put the data with data type mismatch? In PIG, how does it deal with? So just try to see the concept. An SQL database will enforce the constraints in a tables schema at load time. Whenever you are trying to load the database, there itself all the schema definitions, everything will be loaded and they are loaded. And if you are trying to do any kind of typecasting, it will see whether it is compatible data type or not. Trying to load a string into a column which is declared as a numerical data type will definitely fail. This is the case with SQL. Now what PIG is doing? In PIG, if the value cannot be casted to the type declared in the schema, it will substitute it with a null value. This is the major difference between SQL and PIG. When you are working with SQL, if you are trying to store one data type value into another data type, if it cannot store, it will try to throw the error. On the other hand, when you are working with PIG, if it cannot do the typecasting, if it can do, it will do. If it cannot, what it will do is it will substitute the value with a null value, right? Now try to see this with an example. Suppose I have this data. What are we trying to see? Suppose the first 4 bytes is an year, then this is the temperature value, the next one is the quality code. So just for uniformity, I am using the same data set throughout this chapter examples. So there are 3 attributes in this data: year, temperature, quality code. If you see, for the third row, in place of temperature, I have, say for example, in my data set itself, I have mistyped it as E. I do not have a proper value, I just typed somewhere E. Whenever you are trying to work with PIG, suppose I have given this statement like this: records is the output relation. This is like a variable, you can give any name here. Records is equal to load that particular data set as, what are the 3 attributes we are considering? First one is year, next one is temperature, next one is quality. If you see the data types of these 3 attributes, year is coming as character array, temperature is coming as integer, quality is coming as integer. Now just come back to this one. I am expecting first one is a character array, second one is integer, next one is integer. Character array is nothing but similar to string, right? Now this should go into a string, this should go into an integer, this should go into an integer. First and third attributes, we do not have any problem, they are directly going into their respective data types. See the second one, I should have an integer there. In this particular row, I have some error value E. Now you have executed the statement will successfully gets executed, you will not get any error. Now I want to see what is the data that is loaded into records. What is the output statement in PIG? You say dump records. It will try to show what data is loaded into that. So if you see the third one, in place of wherever I have E, it will just substitute it with null value. So whenever PIG is trying to typecast the values, if the typecasting cannot be done successfully, it replaces it with null value. This is one thing to be remembered. Also, in addition to substituting with a null value, it will show you a warning message, but it will never halt the execution process. Then we will talk about functions. What do you mean by functions? Just like C programming language, Python and all, we are writing functions. Here also you have the option of working with functions. We will see some of the categories of functions. Then I will show you with an example how do we write user defined functions. Is that feature available in Pig? Yes, very well. We can write user defined functions also. I will show you with an example. Now, in Pig, the functions are of 4 types. You can classify them into 4 types. The first category is eval function, evaluation, eval function, next one filter function, next one store functions, then load functions. There are 4 categories. Let us quickly look at all these. Eval function, it is like evaluate an expression. Whatever expression you are giving, whatever aggregate functions we are using, those will be coming under the eval category, evaluation category. So, these functions take one or more expressions and return another expression. All such things which take one or more expressions, evaluate something and give you a value, they call it as eval functions. The aggregate functions, for example, max, min, sum, average, all those things come into these categories. So, the example for a built-in eval function is max, which returns maximum value of the entries in a bag. Remember, bag is nothing but it is like a tuple which corresponds to the key value pair. Then, what is the category of filter function? It is a special type of eval function. You can think like this is a child class of eval function. So, you can think of filter function is a child class of eval function, right? You can think. And it always returns a logical Boolean result, yes or no, true or false. Say for example, the best example would be filter operator, wherein you are trying to check for whether a particular name value is empty, whether that particular character is existing or not. Such functions which return a true or false, they come under the category of filter function, which always return a Boolean variable or Boolean value as a result of them. One example would be is empty. As I told, you are trying to check whether a particular string is empty or not, which gives you an answer as yes or no. So, such functions will come under the category of filter functions. And load function, which is used to load the data into Pig environment, and you want to load the data into a relation, right. So, a function which specifies how you want to load data into a relation from external storage. Store function, after I finish working with my relations, I want to store that data into my external storage, which can be done using the store function. So, basically there are 4 categories of functions. What are the 4? Just have a quick look: eval function, filter category, load and store. These are some of the examples of built-in functions available in Pig. So, if you can see, we have average, concatenation, count, count star. Try to see the difference between count and count star. Count will try to count the not null entries which are there in a particular relation bag, whereas count star will count all the null values also, including null values also it will count. Difference, max, min, size of the bag, etc. Sum, these are the functions, some of the functions built into Pig. Some more functions. These are some more functions which help us to work with JSON and all. Avro, Parquet, these are various types of file formats which we will see very soon. Now, let us talk about other libraries. What do we mean by other libraries? Whenever you are working If the function you need is not available, you can write your own user defined function. In short, we call it as UDF, stands for user defined function. When do we go for writing user defined function, or when do we go for customization of the functions? When the function which we are looking for is not available in the built-in library, we go for user defined functions. So in such a case, PIG allows you to write UDFs, user defined functions. Let me remind you, when you are going for writing exams, UDF is one of the questions without which generally we cannot expect the question paper. They give you a sample question, the sample scenario, and ask you to write a user defined function for that particular scenario. So I cannot simply fix it to user defined function means only this question. They will give you a simple scenario. For this data set, you write a user defined function which does this particular job. You are supposed to write. This is also a part of your lab exercise. So I will show you one sample. You can try with some more sample questions of user defined functions. Now, whenever you are trying to work with, this is somewhat like a built-in library which we call as piggy bank, which is a library of pig functions shared by the community. Pig is an open source, so the community keeps on adding the library functions and they call it as piggy bank. One more library is there, Apache DataFew, which is another very rich library which consists of pig UDFs. Apart from the utility functions, they have functions for statistics, and they have functions for performing sampling, estimation, hashing, how do I work with various types of web data, etc. Now, how do I write user defined functions? User defined functions can be written in any of these languages, right? You can write it in Java, Python, JavaScript, so on. As part of our curriculum, we will be working with Java functions. In my example also, I will show you a Java example, all of which are running using JavaScript API. Whatever may be the language you are writing, the user defined function, internally it will be running on JavaScript API. Now, I will try to write a user defined function which is like a filter category function. Let me talk about the example a little bit in detail. Say for example, we want to write a filter function for filtering out the weather records which do not have a specific quality code for the temperature. What is the idea? Try to see how are we giving the command so far. Filtered records is equal to filter the records relation by the temperature, which is not an error value, and quality is inside these specific values. This is the intention and this is how we are giving the statement so far. I do not want to give it like that, I want to give it like this, right? What is the statement difference here? Filter records by temperature not equal to error value and is good of quality. Is good, is it a built-in function? No, it is a user defined function. Is good, which is taking a parameter called quality, and you are trying to check inside the function whether quality value belongs to any one of these 5 values. So, instead of using the in operator, I want to write a user defined function called is good with a parameter quality. How do we write this, right? Now, the filter user defined functions are a subclass of filter function, which itself is a subclass of eval function. As I told you, the filter functions are taken as subclass of eval function because of this reason. Now, how do we write? These are the packages we need. Then try to see, we are writing is good is the method we are writing, is good class which extends the filter function class. In that you need to override a method called execution. Under user defined functions we have something called as execution, which is likely to throw an IO exception because of the data set errors. So what am I trying to do here? If the tuple is equal to null, or the tuple size is equal to 0, I am saying sorry, the quality code is not good, right, is good, it will say no. On the other hand, you are trying to take the 0th attribute of the tuple, and then if the object is null, then you are returning false. There is data but quality code is missing, then also you are returning null, false. On the other hand, if at all some data is there, you are casting it into integer because I am trying to check the value within 0, 1, 4, 5, 9. Do I need to check all the time with these values only? No, this is just a sample requirement. So you are returning, if it is equal to any one of these values, you are returning true. If at all any exception is caught, you are trying to throw IO exception. That is all. This is the user defined function for trying to check whether the particular quality code is good or not. Now, once I finish writing this function is to be converted into a jar file and it is to be registered. The moment you write register pig examples.jar, this function will be registered into the user defined functions library. After you register that, you can directly invoke the function like this, right. You can also give a short name, just like in SQL we have alias names, here also you can give alias names. What is the alias name given as? Define is good. This is the alias name. For whom are you giving the alias name? com.hadoopbook.pig.is good. For this entire thing, you are trying to give a short name as is good. You do not give this short name, you need to write with this entire name, right. Once you give the define clause and the short name, you can try to use it like is good. You do not give the define clause, every time you need to type this entire name for the function. Then leveraging types, what happens when you are trying to work with converting the data types, just like typecasting. The filter function works when the quality field which you have declared in this example is of type integer. But what if the type information is absent? The UDF fails. Because the default data type in pig will be byte array, whenever you are trying to work with int data type and you try to miss the value, the data type will be defaulted to byte array and it fails. How do I fix this one? Whenever you are trying to fix this one, you can say get arg2 function mapping method, which will be providing for the reason of typecasting one data type to the other data type.